Before we start the show, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Their support keeps this show free for you. Don't you wish we could scoop up all the electronics in our house and just throw them in the garbage? Are you sick of fighting with your kids about how long and how much? And no, you can't have social media. And no, we're not going to watch our show for 7 hours a day. Electronics are the bane of our existence. But how can we cohabitate with electronics? I have created an event. It's called Plugged In Parenting. And I'm going to be meeting with folks April 29th and 30th for an hour each day at noon to discuss how we can live with electronics in our children without completely indulging them and also without being completely restrictive. Join me for this 2-day event. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for joining me on the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
One of the biggest predictors of adolescent screen use is their parents' screen use. That's not from me. That's from the Pediatric Research Journal from June of 2024. All parents think, though, that the key to having kids who are not obsessed with their devices is to restrict their use. If we are concerned with our child's screen use, we need to be first concerned with ours. Let me tell you a little story about Esme. Esme was obsessed with her iPad during late elementary and middle school. And it was no coincidence that her dad and I were also pretty into our phones. I would wake up on my phone and it would be the last thing that I looked at before I went to bed. I was always connected, Instagram and texting, and you know how it is. And yet I had these very strict rules for my daughter. She wasn't allowed to be on her phone all the time, but her dad and I were. She wasn't allowed 5 more minutes. She wasn't allowed just one more show, but I would watch hours of my favorite show, and I was constantly connected to my phone. It made Esme's desire for her phone so much more heightened. But where she had this desire could have been desire for connection. We could have been using this time instead to get connected. I finally realized that it wasn't her who needed the limits and the boundaries and the rules, but it was her dad and I who needed the limits and the boundaries and the rules. So we implemented phone-free zones. And he and I came up with a pact where if the kids were awake in the house and we were with them, which was all the time, then we were not to be on our phones. And let me tell you, it was really, really hard. So when we got up I used to get up in the morning extra early and get all my stuff done on my phone so that I could then engage with the kids without it because I was so obsessed with it. It was next to my coffee while I was drinking coffee in the morning. It was on the counter while I was making breakfast for the girls. It was everywhere. But when I decided to do this, and when he and I decided to do this, we said, okay, we're going to leave our phones in our bedrooms and we're going to engage with the girls in the morning without any phones. There will be no phones until they go to school. And it wasn't easy. But what we realized is that we were starting to replace those moments with connection. And a lot of people want to use restriction, like, oh, I don't want my kid on the phone, after dinner. I don't want my kid on the phone, while we're in the car, which I get, and it makes sense. But if we're just using restriction and we're not pouring in connection, are we giving our kids a good excuse to get off this highly addictive, very entertaining device? I'm not so sure. So if we're using this time, well, we can use it to get connected to our kids. We can get outside. We can do special time. We can play. So I know it's not always easy to do this. And we are a generation and a society filled of electronics. But if we truly want our children to have good electronic hygiene, we must model it, because that electronic hygiene that they will display later on is deeply linked to our electronic hygiene.
Before we continue, let's take a moment to thank our sponsors. Their support lets us keep bringing you the show completely free. If you're a parent, you get it. There isn't time to research every single product you use in your home. That's why you need Blue Land. They're certified, safe, and clean by the EPA, and they get the job done without worrying about the impact they're having on your family, your children, or on you. Blue Land is on a mission to eliminate single-use plastic by reinventing cleaning essentials to be better for you and the planet with the same powerful clean you're used to. Just fill your reusable bottles with water, drop in the tablets, and wait for them to dissolve. You'll never have to grab bulky cleaning supplies on your grocery run. I'm always running out of room for extra bottles, and this makes things so much easier. Plus, Blue Land products are effective and affordable, with refill tablets starting at just $2.25. Blue Land products are independently tested to perform alongside major brands and are free from dyes, bleach, and harsh chemicals. And Blue Land is trusted by over 1 million homes, including mine. Celebrate Earth Month and make the switch today. Get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/peace. You won't want to miss this. blueland.com/peace for 15% off. Are you a mom who feels like you're juggling it all, but something just feels off? It could also be your hormones causing this chaos. Hormone Harmony contains science-backed herbal extracts called adaptogens. Now, here's the beauty of adaptogens. They help the body adapt to any stressors like chaotic hormonal changes that happen naturally throughout a woman's life. That's why Hormone Harmony is perfect for women of all ages who are struggling with life-disrupting symptoms such as PMS, like irritability, moodiness, discomfort, or uncontrollable cravings, and menopause with symptoms like hot flashes and night sweats. The results are impressive. There are over 40,000 reviews on their website. Women cannot stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. So for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code PEACE. Check out happymammoth.com. Use the code PEACE for 15% off today. Okay, let's get back to the show.
And if you are using electronics with your kids, right? Not in front of your kids, but let's say you decide to watch a movie together or you decide to watch a show together. Is it kid-centered? And are you with them present and watching it? And do you know what your child is watching? Are you monitoring the content? Or are you just sitting your child alone on the couch by themselves with an iPad that has internet access? That can be a slippery slope and it can be quite dangerous. My ex-husband and I decided too in those moments is that, we would watch the Disney movie with our kids. We would watch, Paw Patrol with our children, and we would know what they were watching and we could discuss it. And if something tricky came up or something hard came up in one of those shows, then we were there to talk to them about it. Now, people will say, well, I don't have time for that. And I'm using, this iPad as a way to get some time away. And I get that too. And there will be those moments where your child is going to watch something alone, but hopefully we know what show it is and we know what they're talking about. And perhaps we're bopping in a bit to see what's happening on there and that our child hasn't navigated away from the show to go to something else, because it can be a very dangerous world. And we don't send our kids, out in the world to somebody else's house without knowing what's at that house or who's at that house or what kind of people they are. And so we certainly wouldn't set them in front of a device where we don't know what they're looking at. So here's my advice to you. Decide when you and your partner are going to turn off the devices and focus on the kids. And is that every morning and every evening? Is that every time they're around? And every family will be different, and you need to decide what that looks like for you. And I think as they get older, it becomes much harder, and those times and timeframes change, and so things will be constantly in flux. And then decide how you're going to spend your time. If you just say, okay, this is a screen-free time for all of us, really be mindful about how you're going to spend that time. How are you going to get engaged? Are you doing special time? Are you getting outside? Are you trying to find ways to engage with your child? Are you doing a project? Are you cooking? What are you doing to fill that time that feels good for your kids so that they want to get off their devices? Because if you're offering them nothing better, I don't know how well that's going to go. keep in mind that just restricting and just keeping the electronics away from your child is not going to necessarily keep them safe and not necessarily going to be the remedy to everything. It's more complex than that. What you're doing on your device informs what they will do, and how you're spending your time when you're not on your devices can really infuse your relationship with connection or not. Now, we can't always do all of this stuff all the time. We can't always all the time be connecting, and I get that. But if we make this a goal of ours, it can change things in our house. Now, if you're a parent who is concerned about electronic use and you just want to go through the house and throw all the devices away and say, we're done. I can't take it anymore. They're fighting me on it. I can't turn it off. They're not listening. Perhaps you want to join me for Plugged In Parenting on April 29th and 30th at noon Pacific, where we're going to dive into all the hard questions around parenting, and we're going to dive into the idea of connection. If you can't make it at the time, no worries. We're going to send you the recordings. But this event can give you a whole new refreshed idea around the use of electronics and how we can model good hygiene to our kids. Thanks for joining me on the Peace and Parenting podcast. I am so glad you're here. Please use the link in the show notes to sign up for Plugged In Parenting April 29th and 30th. I'll see you there.